right, welcome back. It's JankTech. It's my new series on Star Wars Unlimited where I focus on fun card interactions, twin suns, alternate formats, janky combos, all that great stuff you can't get away with when everybody is just sweating it out one-on-one. So today we're going to have a little fun here with people that are just absolutely beginners at this format. So I had a comment a few videos back about someone asking about what to do for teaching people that are playing twin suns, and I replied a very little bit, but it got me thinking that it would be pretty fun to do some videos on playing twin suns as an absolute beginner. And of course we're doing this on a budget because beginners aren't gonna know if they want to sink a ton of money into a CCG like this. So with that in mind, I made 4 decks, 2 with villain leaders and 2 with hero leaders. They are all $20 or less. Some of them are way less. And I was imagining that these could be played in a pod with each other, and that the people that are playing these aren't going to know a whole lot about Star Wars Unlimited. So I tried to make them not very cute, like I think a lot of times when we make decks, we try to be like, oh, what kind of really cool, neat combo can I come up with? What kind of never before seen thing? These ones are straightforward. These ones are meant to teach mechanics and kind of what to do if you want to learn how to deck build, if you want to learn the flow of the game. So let's get started. Here's our first one. This is a budget Grand Inquisitor and Krennic deck. I think this is one of the most iconic Twin Suns combos, and if you are an absolute beginner, this is an excellent one to start with. So one of the things when you are just starting to play Twin Suns, if you don't know anything about the game, is thinking, well, what leaders and bases do I want? There's so many of them. Well, I chose all leaders that felt like they had very immediately recognizable complementary abilities. And so what do I mean by that? Well, let's see what our 2 leaders do here. So Grand Inquisitor, as an action, exhaust him, deal 2 damage to a friendly unit with 3 or less power, and ready it. And Krennic says each friendly damaged unit gets +1/+0. So we have one leader that damages our units and readies them, and we have another leader that makes our damaged units extra strong. So we've got 2 leader abilities that very immediately and obviously complement each other. What do they do when they flip? So when GI flips, he flips on turn 6. He is a 3/6 on attack. You may deal 1 damage to another friendly unit with 3 or less power and ready it. And then Krennic continues to say, each friendly damaged unit gets +1/+0. His ability never turns off. So for the whole game, damaged units are always going to be extra strong, which is great. He comes out at 5 resources. He's a 2/7. He will also get buffed by his own ability. So Grand Inquisitor can actually ready Krennic and have him swing for more. And Krennic also just does restore 2. So he heals your base a little bit, which is nice. I went with yellow here instead of green, just because there were more cards that worked with these particular leaders. So before I get started going through the cards in this deck, what is stuff that goes good with these abilities? So we're going to have damaged guys. We want guys to have grit. Obviously, grit is a permanent increase in power once you get damage. So you can only ready a gritted unit once, essentially, with GI in most cases. I'm going to say GI a lot. That's going to be Grand Inquisitor. Now we know. So we want things that are going to just get stronger permanently. And then we also want things with raid. And that brings us to our first unit here, Cantina Braggart. This is a perfect example. So raid is an ability that says whatever number that is following raid, that unit gets plus that number +0 while attacking. So raid is great for Grand Inquisitor because the unit will have an understated power for the amount of damage that it does. So it means that, well, in Cantina Braggart's case, it ordinarily does 0 damage if it's defending in combat. But if it's attacking, it hits for 2. But if you have already readied it with Grand Inquisitor, you've dealt 2 damage to it, then you will be doing an additional damage from Krennic because it's wounded. So this guy, you play it turn 1, and you could immediately swing for 3 with it after you ready it with the leader. It's awesome. So with Grand Inquisitor and Krennic, you really have to watch what you have out on the table because your units will be very killable, and you don't want to make yourself look like too much of a threat. So it's interesting that even a one-drop card like Cantina Braggart can turn into an immediate threat, which is very cool. All right, so let's get going. What else do we have in this deck? We've got Disaffected Senator. This is one of the few cute cards that I have because I couldn't resist a few. Disaffected Senator, 0/4. So once again, less than 3 power. GI can ready him. So you could, in theory, bring this out on your first turn, ready it with GI, and attack with it for 1 because it will be buffed from Krennic. Or you can use its ability later on to pay 2 and exhaust him to deal 2 damage to a base. So it's kind of like this great multi-use thing. Like, you can kind of have it out. He's got a big butt just in case somebody wants to attack him. So it's not going to, he's not going to die immediately. But he can provide a threat in multiple ways, which I really like. High Levon Enforcer. It's a grit unit. It's a 1/4. Excuse me. The downside to this one is that it has a bounty. But I feel like you get enough guys that are strong out early on, then you're going to be fine. So since it has grit, you play it turn 1, ready it with Grand Inquisitor. It has 2 damage on it. You are going to be swinging for 4 because it will be buffed an extra 1 from Krennic. This is awesome. You might even get a second swing in after Grand Inquisitor flips because remember, after Grand Inquisitor deploys, he only deals 1 damage to a unit with 3 or less power. And the cool thing about the High Levon Enforcer, I take that back. Since it swings for 4 because it's damaged with Krennic, then you won't be able to flip it over. See, I had to remind myself on that one. All right, next one, Kinton Intimidator, 1/4 on attack, exhaust the defender. This one's cool. You can swing with it on, against a weenie. Like if somebody gets R2 first thing, you swing with Kinton Intimidator, you lock down their R2, you keep them from being able to attack with R2 and use R2's ability. Great. Then you can actually still afford the 2 damage to ready him with GI and swing again. Again, this is a guy with a big butt. I'm probably going to use the phrase big butt a lot in this. So if you're sensitive about butts, I do apologize. I think Kinton Intimidator is one of those cards. It's not always useful. I think he's a good early game card in this deck. It's worth noting, before I get too deep into this, you can see this is 50 cards. This is on purpose. I've been talking a lot about 80 card deck building on this channel. I feel like if we are introducing brand new people to the game, we do 50 card decks. There's more consistency with the decks. There's less variability in what they're drawing. And when you're struggling to learn the mechanics and you're just like, there's 50 unique cards already, I think it's better to not give people that extra 30 cards of stuff to think about, to not give people the, should I play a tutor and try to fish something out? It's like, let's focus on the immediate mechanics and then we'll bring people up to speed. And I've got more decks in the works that are going to be fun for when people get up to speed. Okay, anyway, moving on. Bib Fortuna. Bib Fortuna is a 1/3 with a shield. And as an action, you exhaust him, play an event from your hand. It costs 1 less. So there's some events in this deck, which we'll get into later. So Bib obviously makes those easier for us to play. But he also has a shield, which means that even though he doesn't get the damage buff from Krennic, he is easy to ready if you want to play another unit. If you want to play another event for cheap, you can potentially do that twice in a turn if you really want to. So you can potentially save 2 on events if you need to use 2 removals per turn. So let's say you had Bib Fortuna, you had another unit out, you used Bib Fortuna to play Desperate Attack for free, attacked with a unit for a whole butt ton of damage. Use Grand Inquisitor, ready Bib, and guess what? You can use Bib to play Repair for free because he has his 1 discount and heal that 1 unit you just attacked with. It's really cool. So I think Bib is good in here. I think shielded units work well with Grand Inquisitor. Even though it doesn't get you the Krennic bonus, it just gives them the ability to ready and be used again. Again, Crafty Smuggler, same kind of thing. You can play him, you can immediately ready him, which takes his shield off, and then you can just swing for 2. Or if you're lucky and you have, if you have a surprise strike in your hand, you can immediately hit with them. It's pretty cool, chaining these kinds of things together with these leaders. Dr. Pershing, he's one of the few rares in this deck. He's a 0/5. As an action, exhaust him, deal the damage to a friendly unit, and draw a card. This is great. You want your guys to be damaged, and this is a good way to do it. If you're not using Grand Inquisitor's ability, say Maybe you brought in something with grit. You want it to get one more damage on it. Or you readied something that had grit that then would be ineligible because its power got too high to be readied by Grand Inquisitor. Well, you could ready it, and then you could stick another damage on it with Dr. Pershing and draw a card. I think he's really cool in this deck. And one of the examples of that, I think, would be like Sainara-san, right? You can play her, and we'll get into her more later. You play her, you ready her with Grand Inquisitor. She has 2 damage on her, so she'd be swinging for 6 with GI's 2 damage and Krennic's 1 buff +1/+0. You do another damage to her with Dr. Pershing, draw a card. She's swinging for 7. That's a lot of damage. Oh my gosh. Okay. Partisan Insurgent, it's a 1/4. If you have another red unit, this gains raid 2. It's a little bit more situational. But the cool thing is, even if you don't have another red unit, you can still swing with it for at least 2 if you damaged it with Grand Inquisitor. There's a decent amount of red units in this deck, but it's worth noting our leader is also red, so you'll have a guaranteed red unit at least when you have 6 resources. I think these guys are good, but it's one of those cards you can resource a little bit more easily than some of the other ones in this deck. But if you've got the right units to complement them, it's great. Pike Sentinel, it's a 2/3, it's a Sentinel. We need Sentinels in the early game. We want to make sure people can't kill us. And if someone happens to do a little bit of damage, great. Krennic buffs it. We want our Sentinels to be strong because it increases the chance that they will kill something that's trying to attack the base. Twin Suns, I think Sentinels are even more important than they are in Premier, just because, like I said in an early video, it says this is a pain for someone to attack me if I have a Sentinel versus if someone else doesn't have a Sentinel. Well, I can just attack them. My unit's not going to take damage. And then I'm just like, oh, my opponent hit my other opponent. This is wonderful. Scout Bike Pursuer. This is a classic Grand Inquisitor play. These guys are so awesome for this leader. 1/4 grit. Play it turn 1, ready it, hit for 4. They're so good. They don't have the downside that the Hylabon Enforcer does. And also, like, they just look cool, okay? Like, if you get a hyperspace one of these, like, you're going to stick it into the deck because the art is awesome. Bold Recon Commando, it's another guy with a big butt that's also a Saboteur. So you play it, you ready it, you swing for 4, goes past Sentinels, awesome. Cell Block Guard, this is a classic Sentinel, readyable with GI, and 3/3. They're no slouch. They can keep a lot of early units from getting into your base. Death Watch Loyalist, oh my gosh, it's such a great card for Grand Inquisitor. 3/3 with grit and overwhelm. So if this guy's got 2 damage on him, he's swinging for 6 with overwhelm. You can flatten somebody's Sentinel with that and still get damage to the base. He's gonna die, but overwhelm means you're still getting damage through. So grit that bad boy the heck up. Fifth Brother, I call him Fobro. I have no idea why. It's just fun to say Fobro. Anyway, Fobro gets raid 1 for each damage on him. So this is neat. It's like grit that isn't grit, which means because his power isn't technically more than 2, he's really easy to ready. And the other cool thing about Fifth Brother is his on attack ability. You may deal 1 damage to him and 1 damage to another ground unit. So again, you play him, you ready him with GI. He's got 2 damage on him. You swing with him. He swings for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you can add 1 more damage to make him swing for 6 in order to do 1 damage to another ground unit. He's going to be almost dead, but that's a lot of damage all at once. And that's what this deck does. It's like about getting those bursts of damage while controlling your the other people's units. Okay, we got the Worsher, excuse me if I am not pronouncing this word right. The Worsher Tree Tender. It's a Wookiee. Y'all have seen my other video, hopefully, about Wookiees. I love Wookiees. Give me more Wookiees, please. Wookiees are great. It's a 2/4 with grit. Again, ready him with GI, swing for a lot. It's great. And it's a Wookiee. Wookiees are cool. Baze Malbus. So he's a grit unit with a big butt. He's got 5 health, And if you have the initiative, he gets Sentinel. So we're just going into this being like, if you get Sentinel, it's nice, but he's still a grit unit. You can still do a ton of damage to him because of the GI Krennic combo. Dwarf Spider Droid, 3/4 with grit. Everybody's butt. This was one of the things that I had to think about when doing this video. You need to have at least 3, ideally more health for Grand Inquisitor to work, because obviously you still want the unit to be alive in order to use Grand Inquisitor's ability. If any unit has less than 3 health and I want to use Grand Inquisitor's ability, they better have a shield. That's why we're running the Crafty Smuggler up here. The only way Crafty Smuggler can get readied is with having his shield taken off. So, like, this is something that you'll see with most of the units in here. And again, we're getting to more of the higher cost ones, so they're going to have bigger butts anyway. But yeah, Dwarf Spider Droid, another solid choice for damaging the unit, readying it, bada bing, bada boom. Nema Outpost Constables. I remember when Shadows came out, this in limited formats was just like, you can't get past it. It's a 2/6. It's just, it doesn't die. So this is kind of up to you. It's like you have the option of readying it with Grand Inquisitor and attacking for 3. Or you can just let it sit on your board and be like, dude, 6 health. What are you going to do? You're going to attack someone else. That's what you're going to do. Rush Clovis Banking Clan Scion. Okay, so this is one of the things that I wanted to run yellow for, was because I really like Rush with this leader combo. He's a 3/5, which means you can ready him with Grand Inquisitor. He has Raid 2, which means he is going to swing for 6 damage, because when he is damaged, Krennic buffs him. And on attack, if defending player controls no ready resources, create a battle droid token. And guess what? This is Twin Suns. You have 3 people to choose from. Hopefully you'll find at least one person to attack that's already spent all their resources for the round. So your odds of just getting a battle droid are pretty good. Synara-san, we briefly touched on her earlier. She's a 3/6 with grit. She has a mega not good bounty, which could fire back at you. But the cool thing about Synara is she doesn't heal a base. She deals damage to a base. So this provides you some negotiating fodder, being like, okay, I feel like you want to attack my Synara. I'm going to attack this other person if you agree that when you kill Synara, you're going to deal damage to someone that's not me. So I think this is the fun thing about Twin Suns, the politicking. And if somebody plays Synara in a Grand Inquisitor Krennic deck and readies her, then you're looking at someone that's going to swing for 6 damage. Like, what do you even do with that? You start negotiating. That's what you do with that. Clan Challengers. Oh my gosh. Clan Challengers is like one of the best cards to play with Grand Inquisitor, because 3/6 with Raid 3. You can ready this dude multiple times if you play it in time to deploy Grand Inquisitor. So what do I mean by this? This is a 3/6. Grand Inquisitor, deal 2 damage to a friendly unit with 3 or less power and ready it. So on Grand Inquisitor's deploy turn on 6 resources, you will have had Clan Challengers played already. Swing with it for 1. Swing with it once. If it had no damage, you'll do 6. Use Grand Inquisitor. Swing with it again, you'll do 7. Deploy Grand Inquisitor. And then you can attack with Grand Inquisitor, ready it, attack with it again. It's beautiful. Oh, my mistake. You can't do the second ready. I'm so sorry, y'all. Because Krennic will make it up to a 4. So forget I said that part. But one of the cool things that you can do if you want to avoid something like that and get that combo to work. Ready for this? Okay. We have Repair. You can just play Repair on Clan Challengers. Repair the damage that you did so that you'll be able to swing again. You won't get the buff from Krennic, but it's worth holding this card in your hand if you want to be able to do mega damage with one of these units. Thanks for letting me talk through that part. So I have seen some really nasty stuff happen with Clan Challengers in Premiere, and I still think it's possible to do some hijinks in Twin Suns, but just be ready. Someone's probably going to want to kill this immediately if they have played against a Grand Inquisitor deck before, because this was pretty much like an auto include if you're running GI. Gideon Hask. Gideon's awesome. You don't use Grand Inquisitor's ability with him, but if you're running blue and villain, there's no reason to not use him in a Twin Suns deck because he just gets an experience whenever an enemy unit is defeated. Like, you just put him on the board and he gets good. You don't do anything else. He just gets good. And I feel like, yeah, you play Gideon pretty much in any deck that has blue in it. And if he gets damaged, great. He's getting stronger. Chrysanthemum, BK, I love a Wookiee. I love an evil Wookiee. We only have one bad Wookiee. Come on, y'all. Give us some more bad Wookiee cards. This is awesome. We don't care about his when played because we don't have any... we don't care about bounties in this deck. I'm not playing any bounties in this deck. We might get lucky. Maybe somebody is playing with one of the cards in their deck that has a bounty on it, or someone else is playing a bounty deck. In any case, the win played is not important. What is important is that it has 3 power. You can ready it with GI. And on attack, choose a ground unit. You may deal 1 damage to it for each damage on this unit. Great. We just hit him for 2. You can just ping something for 2 when you attack. And you're attacking for 4. And he's a Wookiee. He's got a big butt. He can take a lot of damage. I love Wookiees. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think BK is great for this. Rugged Survivors. Another guy with 3 power and grit. On attack, if you control a leader unit, you may draw a card. Our leaders come out at 5 and 6 resources, which is the turns that you would be able to play Rugged Survivors. So chances of you drawing a card off of this is great. The ability to ready it and swing for a whole ton is great. I think Rugged Survivors is a great include in here. And last ground unit, Academy Defense Walker. It's a 5/5 Sentinel, and when played, give an experience token to each friendly damaged unit. That's going to be like all your units, y'all. So this thing is going to come out, immediately say, you have to attack me, and also everything else is strong, and everyone else that you're playing with is going to be like, oh my gosh, this is awful. I love the Academy Defense Walker. Also, the hyperspace art on this card is super cool. So that's very cheap, and if you are putting this deck together, it's worth like the extra whatever 10 or 20 cents to get the hyperspace version. So cool looking. All right, we got some space units. This is a deck where obviously we've got 25 ground, 11 space. I think that just having a little space support is good. And this is going to be about the ratio I have in all of these decks. I think that's going to change once we get to jump to light speed. But again, these are like little learning baby decks. We're not really concerned too much with playing super optimally. This is about teaching mechanics, teaching deck building, talking ourselves through rules sorts of things. Because y'all heard me earlier with Clan Challengers where I had to be like, okay, I use GI, I do this, it gets buffed from Krennic, I attack with it. No, wait, I can't attack with it. So this is the kind of like easily resolvable rules question that you'll undoubtedly come up with. And I'm glad that I flipped it enough on there in order to kind of present that thing. Anyway, we got space units. We got a TIE fighter. It's just a 2/1 in space for 1. We're not going to be using any of our leader abilities on it, but it's nice just to have a body on the field that's cheap and can do some damage early. Headhunter Squadron. This one, on the other hand, clearly synergizes with our leaders. It's got a big butt. It's a space unit that isn't really exciting. I feel like people leave this alone in games that I play because it doesn't look like a threat. But if you can swing for 2 for a few turns with it, I think it's proven itself. Inferno 4. In my 80 card videos, I think I will repeatedly say how good cards are that let you go through your deck. I think Inferno 4 is a solid include in here because it's a 2/3. You can ready it with GI and it will still be alive. You can swing for 3. And it has this when played and when defeated effect of looking at the top 2 cards of your deck, put any number of them on the bottom of your deck and the rest on the top in any order. That's great. You want to go through your deck. You want to pull out the stuff that's good and the stuff that's not good. If you're just like, oh, all I see is stuff that I won't be able to play for 5 turns, well, you put those on the bottom. I think this is an amount of going through your deck that's manageable for a new person. And plus being able to do it twice and be like, if you kill this, it's okay. I still get to do its cool ability. I think that's like a fun thing for a new person to play this game and be like, okay, I can kind of do some like really neat stuff with this. Outer Rim Headhunter. It's a 1/3 with Raid 1. On attack, if you control a leader unit, you may exhaust a non-leader unit. So it has raid, which is one of the primary reasons I included it in here, so that when you ready it, it just does that extra little bit of damage. And hey, you know, if we get it out when we have Krennic and GI out, then we can exhaust some things, which having Krennic out fairly early as a 5-leader is pretty cool. So just getting a little bit of board control with that. Lurking Tie. Lurking Tie is awesome. You can only ready this with GI after he deploys because 2 damage will kill this thing. And since it can't be captured, damaged, or defeated by enemy card abilities, which means that your abilities can still damage it. So just keep that in mind. It might come up over the course of the game with new players. But Lurking Tie is still a really good card. I think it's still worth having in here. So, and if somebody crashes like a ship that does 1 damage into it, well, then great. They've buffed it, and now it's going to hit for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is awesome. 7th Fleet Defender, kind of like the Crafty Smuggler. It's a 3/2 with a shield, so you can use GI to ready it. You don't get the Krennic damage buff, but still, you ping the shield off, boom, you hit for 3. Awesome. Also, like a 3/2 in space is really useful at just running into another ship and kind of controlling the board that way. So even if you're not using it expressly with Grand Inquisitor, you can at least plow into another ship and get rid of it and not have to worry about losing your unit because the shield's got you covered. Trade Federation Shuttle. This is one that I didn't really see get used a whole lot in Twilight. It's a separatist thing, so I was like, okay, maybe people use it with Dooku or Newt Gunray or whatever. I think it works well in this case. It's a 2/3, so we can ready it with GI without it dying, so we'll be able to swing for 3 with it. But also, when played, if you control a damaged unit, create a battle droid token. We have a few things that make battle droid tokens in this deck. They're not really there for exploit reasons or overwhelming people reasons. They're just kind of like a nice little extra and kind of get people familiar with like, oh, this is like tokens. This is how easily they die. Like, this is how expendable they are. Maybe I just crash a token into something to ping a shield off. So I think they're in there more for that. The Imperial Interceptor. This card's great. It just like helps you deal with space units. It's not something that you can use with GI, but it just does not every card needs the direct synergy. You want to make as many of your cards in a Twin Suns deck as possible synergize with your leaders, but this one I feel like it's just good for you get some damage on something, so hopefully you're removing something and you get a unit out, and that's still pretty good. Like doing a couple things for 1 action. System Patrol Craft. It's a 3/4 Sentinel. You can ready it with GI. It has a big enough butt to survive, and you can swing for 4. I think that's awesome. Devastating Gunship. 3/5 with grit. This is a really common stat line, I feel like, for some of these grit units, is like they have 3 power and then usually like a big sort of butt. And like Devastating Gunship, not only can you ready it with GI and immediately swing for 6 damage because of the Krennic buff, but also you just get to kill something with 2 or less HP. It doesn't matter what arena it's in. I think Devastating Gunship is awesome. And last unit, the First Light, one of our few rares in here. It's 4/7 with grit. Each other friendly non-leader unit gains grit. So everything that you have that has damage on it, well, now that counts as grit. Like, oh my gosh, you play this, you've got a ton of damaged units on the board. You can swing for so much. It's such a cool unit. I think it works great with Krennic. I think it works great in this deck. Also noting, smuggle. You can smuggle it in for the same price as it costs to just play it out of your hand, with the extra caveat that you have to deal 4 damage to a friendly unit. This is kind of great because you can put a whole bunch of damage on something that's going to end up with grit anyway. I'm pretty sure, and please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, that you can't deal 4 damage to the First Light because this is a cost for playing it and it is not out for you to be dealing 4 damage to. So keep that in mind while you're playing it at the table. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. It's a great late game card, great finisher, and plus it has the advantage of being a smuggleable card, so you can resource that no problem early on and feel really good about it. I tried to limit the amount of smuggles in these decks because I feel like when you're just starting to learn the game, it's a little bit weird when you're like, okay, I do this and it's still a resource, but also I swap it out with another resource which comes in exhausted, and like it's, you know, we want to minimize those. So all of these learn to play decks will only have a few smuggle cards in them. Okay, let's move on to the events. Desperate Attack. Dude, Desperate Attack in this deck. Am I right? Attack with a damaged unit gets +2/+0 for this attack. Like everything's gonna have damage, okay? like so, like what's a good example of something that's really cool with this? Let's do. Okay, Cantina Braggart. Maybe this is a good example. You can do this turn, like your first couple of turns if you want. You play Cantina Braggart. You deal 2 damage to it with Grand Inquisitor and ready it. Then you play Desperate Attack, and you are going to swing for +2/+0. You will get your +1/+0 from Krennic, and you'll get your raid 2. So that's 0 +2 +2 from the event +1 from Krennic. You're swinging for 5 damage with a 1 cost unit. That's really cool. And like, you don't have to just do that early on to surprise people, because honestly, if you do in Twin Suns, you're probably going to get attacked because someone's going to be like, what's going on over here? So I'd say maybe don't come out all guns a-blazing at first. You know, get a little bit set up and then let people infight and then play cards like this to be like, oh my gosh, that was a lot of damage all at once. Because remember, we want to do damage in bursts with this deck. Moment of Peace, give a shield token to a unit. This is in here because our units are going to get really beat up, and we want to give them a little bit of extra time to stay alive. So if something has grit and it is exhausted, it's got the extra buff to its power. You're not going to be able to ready it with Grand Inquisitor, but you do want maybe to play Moment of Peace on it, give it a shield, let it survive for another round in order to go out there and do another 5, 6+ damage. Repair, heal 3 damage from a unit or base. This is awesome. I think it's in here more to heal units in this deck, but you could certainly use it for your base if stuff's getting through your sentinels. Asteroid Sanctuary. This is really cool multi-use card. It exhausts an enemy unit and gives a shield token to a friendly unit that costs 3 or less. So why is that so cool in this deck? Well, we have a bunch of units that are 3 or less. Our units are going to be taking damage, so we want the shield for either being able to ping and ready them again with Krennic, or to keep them alive for another round. And also, like, it's just another unit that's not going to be able to mess with you because you exhausted it. It's awesome. For 2, yes please. Breaking in, attack with a unit, gets +2/+0 and gains Saboteur for this attack. So going past Sentinel, killing shields. This is awesome. We're going to be buffing our guys a lot anyway, especially if they're getting gridded up or if they have raid. This just adds 2 more damage on top of that. It's great. Grim Resolve, attack with a non-leader unit. It gains grit for this attack. So if we have something with a bunch of damage on it, maybe we play this on Fifth Brother after readying him. Like, it all adds up so fast. Let's see, actually, how much would that be on Fifth Brother? So if we had Fifth Brother out, and let's just say he was ready, had no damage on him. Actually, no. Let's for fun, let's say Fifth Brother is not ready. We swung with him earlier. We maybe pinged him for 1 using his own ability to ping something else. So he would have done 4 damage to the opponent. Since he has 1 damage on him, that means that Krennic is making him a 3/4, which means we can still ready him. So if we do 2 more damage and we ready him with GI, he would now have raid 3. All right. And since we would be giving him grit, he would have 3 damage. He would have, wait, I got so excited I moved him around. So we would have 3 more damage for the grit, plus the 2 that he's already doing. So you're swinging for 8 damage with that card. Excuse me, 9 damage, because I'm running out of fingers here. Wait, how many fingers do I have here? He gets 1, 2. He does 3 more because of his damage on him. He does 1 more because of Krennic, and he does 3 more because of Grit. Yeah, he's swinging for 9. That's awesome. That is so much damage from 1 3-cost unit. We like Grim Resolve here. Keep fighting. Ready a unit with 3 or less power. Great. It's another way of readying things in this deck. Maybe you want to attack with them once. Maybe you just brought it out and you're just like, okay, I'm going to ready it, attack with it, then use Grand Inquisitor. If it's something like, oh, let's say the, where's that cool Mando? If it's like the Death Watch Loyalist, maybe you just attack with it. Maybe you just do 3. You ready it. You ready it with Keep Fighting. Attack with it again. Ready it with Grand Inquisitor. Now it's hitting for 6. Like, you've done so much damage with 1 unit. If people let you do it, it's really cool. Self-destruct, another one of the few cute cards in here. Defeat a friendly unit. If you do, deal 4 damage to a unit. Your units are just going to get real beat up. And you're going to be like, I would love to be able to swing for a ton of damage with this, but I think it's just going to get killed by someone else before it can do anything. Great, you just play self-destruct. You're like, oh, I'm taking y'all down with me. So just defeat it to deal a whole bunch of damage to something. It's to a unit. It doesn't matter what arena it's in. So if there's some chump ship that's really giving you trouble, well, then you can just kill one of your guys to this to deal with that. Hello. All right, Surprise Strike. Attack with a unit gets +3/+0 for this attack. This is great. Our units are going to be so strong, and this is a great burst of damage on top of all the other damage that we're already doing. Merciless Contest. So this is kind of in here much like Self-Destruct. Our units are going to get beat up. We're going to use them as much as we can, then we're going to chuck them out of the way to kill something else. So the fun thing about this is a Twin Suns card. It means everybody has to get rid of stuff. So if you just want to like have a mini board wipe, well, Merciless Contest is very cool. You can defeat your guys that you think are going to die anyway. It's awesome. Open Fire, just solid no frills removal, 4 damage to a unit. Bam. It's also just a great solid include in any red deck. Waylay, return a non-leader unit to its owner's hand. If someone's stacking upgrades on something, you can't deal with it by running into it with your gridded up guys. Just get it back there. Upgrades are gone. No problem. Fell the Dragon and Takedown. Our final 2 cards, just removal in different ways. It's just good to have a little bit of removal in general in any deck that has blue in it, or kind of just, you just want ways of getting rid of your opponent's units. And we're not doing anything too fancy here. There's no like super laser blast because that would like, destroy our budget. But these 2 are real solid for different situations. It's worth noting that Fell the Dragon does not work on leaders, but Takedown does. So this is kind of like one of those good, I'm learning the game. I'm learning what cards work on what do I want to save? What am I hoping to get in order to beat a leader? And it also teaches people to not play IG-88 if they think someone has Takedown. Because, I love you, IG-88, but oh my gosh, you die so easily. Anyway, that is the first out of the series of 4. That's Grand Inquisitor and Krennic. What do you think? I think for $6.55, this is pretty good for people that are just new to the game. But yeah, if y'all have any suggestions for this, like what would go good in this deck if you have a few more dollars, let's have a discussion. So put that down in the comments. And if you like this, please give me a like and subscribe and see the rest of the series. And I can't wait to get those to y'all real soon. So yeah, I think we're just going to end this one. And until next time, see y'all later.